So thank you all for being here. My name's Trey West. I'm on the communications staff here at the Horizon Texas Conference, and we're excited to bring you this Lunch and Learn today, accessible translation. We've got a few other people in here I want to introduce you to. We've got Andrew Helmers, Reverend Andrew Helmers. He's the pastor at FUMC Watauga. He's joining us today. He's going to talk a little bit about how FUMC Watauga is accomplishing Spanish translated captioning in real time for their worship services. We've also got Reverend Armando Alvarado. He's on the multiplication team here for the conference. The multiplication team has successfully hosted several webinars where they've been able to do simultaneous multi-language formatting. So he's going to talk to us a little bit about how that works and how they've been able to accomplish that. You may or may not see him and you may or may not hear him, but also Dustin Capps is on our call today. Dustin is on the communications team with me and Pam Hughes. He's going to keep us going behind the scenes. And if you get him, he may be willing to chime in occasionally and offer some of his expertise on some things he's done with AI assisted translation. And like I said, my name's Trey West. I'm going to be talking a good bit about how we at the conference staff are using AI assisted translation for our written materials. At the end of each of these segments, we'll have a brief Q&A if you have any quick questions. And then at the very end of our session today, we'll have a deeper Q&A time if you have any overarching or connectional questions. Yeah, Reverend Andrew Helmers, Armando Alvarado, Dustin, and I be with you. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Andrew so that he can talk to us a little bit about real-time Spanish captioning.
Okay, everybody, we use a free and once it's set up, it's pretty easy to do repeatedly, but it is a little bit complicated. I mean, even I find it a little bit complicated. And so I have a document that I'm going to kind of talk us through, but I've also emailed this to the conference. So if y'all want a copy of that, you can reach out to me or Trey or Dustin, and they can give you a copy of that. We're going to do some stuff live, and you know, that's always wild. So we'll see how that goes when we start to do some live stuff. But I'm going to share my screen now, and we're going to look at this document and kind of get us started. So this is how we're starting here is before I talk about the actual tool that we use, I want to say what is a very easy tool is something that's built into Windows computers. It's called Live Captions. It's inbuilt in Windows 11. If you have a Windows 11 computer, you have this app called Live Captions. I believe they all do. I'm saying that, I'm not totally sure, but I believe they all do. It's part of Windows, and the icon looks like this. And it's called Live Captions. It's a system app. And if you click on it, you can pull it up and it will caption anything that's coming from your computer. And it looks like this with this black text like that on a bar, and it just pops up. And so you can live caption using that app that's built into Windows. You can also change the settings on it to say include microphone audio. And if you do that, then this live captions app will display microphone audio picked up from the room, any ambient talking that's happening. The words will come up picked up from the microphone. Now, that can be translated to Spanish on the newest Windows PCs. So if you have a newer PC that says Copilot Plus, then it has the ability to live translate that into Spanish as well. I don't have that. I have kind of an old computer, and so I'm not able to use this to translate. But I do use it for Bible studies if I have some hard of hearing congregants, and I want an easy way to just click a button, and then a little bar comes up, and it's displaying everybody in the room who's talking. Their words come up on this little bar, and it's very useful for kind of hard of hearing situations. Okay, so that was just a little preface. Now I'm going to go to the service that we use on Sunday mornings. It's called caption.ninja. This is a web page. It's free. There is a paid version, which I've tried, and it's not any better. It just translates using a different way. I'm going to explain how it works first, and then we're going to take a look at it. So the website is caption.ninja. You just type it into any browser. It works best on Chrome and Edge browsers. And if you're curious, some people, they want to know how the privacy stuff about this. Some people don't care. If you care, here's how it works. Caption.ninja itself is not like a business where it does processing. This is a website that basically redirects to a service that Google does. So Google does the actual captioning as you're speaking using the architecture that's built into your browser. And the translation element happens on your own computer. So that's also not sent to anybody. So the words that you say that are translated, they're sent to Google, and then you get captions out. And I'm going to show a live demonstration in just 1 minute. But in short, this is what it looks like for us on Sunday mornings. As I'm speaking, we have my laptop is plugged into a TV. I have English captions that are shown on the top 2/3, and then live Spanish captions on the bottom 2/3. Now that uses a presentation software, and for us, this is why this is such a useful website, Caption.ninja, because it gives you a plugin that you can use for ProPresenter or OBS or other presentation softwares that you use. And it can be a layer on like ProPresenter. It can be a layer underneath live video or anything like that. Live translations and all that's free. And for us, we use it on a rolling TV cart. So I just hook it up to my laptop on a rolling TV cart, and it's not even connected. It's not dependent upon other AV sources. It can't mess anything up. It's just sitting around. Okay, so now I'm going to demonstrate this live, and I'm going to show you 3 levels, because I'm going to show you very simple, then more complicated, and then more complicated still. Okay, so watch. I'm going to split this into a separate window. Here's this, and now on the right side here, actually, here, I'll just make this the whole. I'm going to type in caption.ninja. This is what it looks like when you first load it up. There's instructions. But as soon as you start talking, immediately it starts putting captions up on the screen, just like this. And they're black and white. They're not pretty. You can kind of format some of this if you want, but this gives you free basic, there's no tech involved. There's no thinking involved here. It just works. You type in caption.ninja, you start talking, and it uses your built-in mic on a laptop, or if you have a plugged-in mic, and it just starts doing live captions like this. It does need a good internet connection. Now, this is English captions. How does it work with a Spanish translation? So to me, that's level 2, because level 1 is just having it display English stuff. I'm going to go back to caption.ninja, the load up page, and I'm going to click on a link that explains free translations there on the startup page. Now, this is the translation page for caption.ninja, and you can have it translate any language into any other language. So right now, I say translate English into German. Let's try Spanish. English into Spanish, and it should live translate all the things that I'm saying, English into Spanish. I guess it has to get through the German, and then it goes over to Spanish. But this is good in a Bible study where you have English speakers and Spanish speakers, because you can, okay, here, now we're in Spanish. Thank you. So now I'm talking, and the Spanish speakers can see the Spanish captions, but then when the Spanish speakers go to speak, you can change, and you can say translate from Spanish to English. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't do both at the same time. Now, that would be ideal, right? If it just could translate back and forth seamlessly between the languages. And that's where you're talking about phone apps like Google Translate or something. I think it can do it, but this can only do one language to one other language at a time. So to me, this is level 2. where you're translating as I'm speaking live. It's free, it's running on my laptop. You can just plug in an HDMI cable, put it up on a TV, and then you have English to Spanish translations, and it just works. It's easy peasy. But what if you want it to look pretty? If you want it to look nice, like a black screen where you can format it, that's where you have to use a different software like OBS or Pro Presenter. And this gives you a pluggable URL that you can use for that. And they call it an overlay. So I'm going to go back to the regular the website here, not the translating one. And again, so I start talking here and it just starts getting my English translations. But now I can, I have an overlink that I can copy. There are links at the top here where I can copy this overlay link. And if I were to copy this overlay link, it would allow me to paste that in any other browser, any other device, or even to share it with people. And anybody who were to have that overlay link would see these captions as they're coming out. It's kind of, I don't know if it's clear what I'm saying, but I'm going to demonstrate this by opening a different browser here. So I'm going to copy this overlay link like this. Now I'm going to open up Firefox. So this would be like if you had somebody else at home or in a different location, they could open up a different browser and paste this in, and they could effectively see the captions that are coming up as you're seeing them. I'm going to open Firefox now, and I think I'll have to share this as a separate screen. So now this is a different browser, and I have the overlay here, and it's a little bit different. So it's like Caption.Ninja has given you a back end that prepares these captions, and then the captions are kind of sent out using the URL that you have to the different places that you want. And this is where you can change it to a different language. My URL here is caption.ninja /overlay room equals lunch and learn. Lunch and learn is just a room that I typed in. You can kind of make your own. There's a little bit of playing around, obviously, that you have to do with this to kind of learn how the rooms work, how this. But if you type in a little suffix on the end of it, if you type in ampersand translate equals ES for Spanish, then you will be using the back end that is produced by Caption.Ninja, and your overlay layer will now be delivering a live translated Spanish language. Now, this is in the step-by-step in that PDF that I sent that y'all can have, and y'all can do these step-by-step where it says, now you type this into your URL, now you type this into your URL. And last but not least, this is how it works with OBS or Pro Presenter. This URL that you have here can be copied and pasted into the browser plugin on Pro Presenter, on OBS. And if you have Caption.Ninja open in a web page and you paste this URL into your browser plugin, then your presentation software will be getting fed this language live. It's a little complicated, obviously, but it works. It's very reliable and it's free. Okay. Are there questions that I could help with?
Any questions? And also, just so you know, real quick, Dustin just uploaded Andrew's PDF that he's referenced. He just uploaded that into the chat, so that's available for anyone to download. But yeah, questions for Andrew.
So if we wanted to do, first question is that URL link accessible on people's cell phones? Like if we had different languages in the same congregation, would they be able to access it on their cell phone?
Yes, that does work. And so
And can you do
what you have,
different languages, like ampersand
yes,
equals? Okay.
yes. What it can do is it can receive only one language at a time. So it's receiving English, and then it can output. It has like 40 different languages in the free version that it can output. And yeah, so that overlay link that has the language or translate equals something, that the instructions on it are on the caption.ninja webpage on how to actually put that suffix on the end. But yeah, there's different 2-letter suffixes for each language, and so you could have 10 languages out, and the person's holding the phone and they're seeing Lithuanian or whatever translated as you're speaking live, while someone else is seeing Spanish. And yeah, I've tried that with a phone while I did it on my laptop, and it worked great.
Does it have to receive, like, does the input need to be to a computer though?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think that if you went to caption.ninja on a phone, then because it's a browser based
Right.
software,
That makes sense.
yeah, so I think you would be able to then feed it using that phone that's in that. I have not tried it in that direction.
Yeah, so while y'all were talking, I went ahead and pulled it up, and it's been transcribing everything y'all have been saying. So, right, I didn't pull up the translation; I just pulled up the immediate transcription, the captioning, and it's translating live from my phone using my phone microphone.
So there is a chat question of how does it work on a Facebook live stream, but we still need the English captioning that's being spoken. I mean, the English captioning, are you referring, Thomas, to the one that Facebook generates? I mean, so Facebook is generating the English captions, and Facebook does not generate two language captions at the same time. But this would have to be used with a separate video production software like ProPresenter or OBS. So if you're just streaming live from Facebook from a phone or a computer, then I think, and you're relying on Facebook's translation, then I think that's all you're going to get is Facebook's translation.
I don't know if this would work, but it makes sense in my head. You could copy and paste that link to a different language translation and paste it into the chat of a Facebook Live, and then they could see the translation text on their phone or on their computer in a separate window or tab from
Yeah,
the Facebook live stream.
that would work. That would work. I mean, it comes down to these rooms that you create. So when you type in caption.ninja and then you start talking, it creates a randomized room for you with just a weird alphanumeric code. And then you can change that. Like I changed it to lunch and learn, but the one that I use for church, I call FUMC Watauga, and I just bookmark it. And so it creates then a room called FUMC Watauga, which then you can copy the overlay link for that, paste it in, and then everybody sees the same output, just like if it were in different languages.
And Andrew, did I understand that you can either you can provide the captions in your own stream, but there's also the ability to get a link in people's hands so that they can get it on their device in the language that they need? Or
Yes, the overlay link that you copy could be pasted, like Dustin said, into a chat, and if people were to click on that overlay link, they would see what Trey displayed, which was that white background with the black text, and it would just be kind of live scrolling through. Thomas asked if the audience is using Spanish and English, we need to use two separate computers. Okay, Thomas, I've actually, I mean, I've made it work with one computer, but I use two browsers at once. So I used the same computer, and I had Firefox open, and I had Edge open, and each was running Caption.Ninja. One was going Spanish as the originating language, and then one was going English as the originating language, and it did work. I mean, it is just a little bit more complicated even now to set up. But again, like you do it once or twice, and it is pretty simple. And again, something that's free, lightweight, can run on a slow computer. It just needs a good internet connection.
So this is really cool. I love what's going on here. I'm wondering if somebody, let's say, because there are some people who do not read, but they would love to hear it. Do you think the scripts and everything that's coming out, the translation, I know it's written out, the captions, is there a way how they can be switched to sound where they would actually read it? It would come out?
Yeah, there actually is. I've not played a whole lot with that. It was in that translate page, the one that said that you could go English to German, English to Spanish, like that. There's a click there where it says speak these words or something, and then the computer does speak those captions. I've not tried it. I don't know how good it is, but yeah, it is something that is an option.
Yeah, and the reason why I say is because I've run into people who speak Spanish and you think that they would know how to read, and I found out that they didn't know how to read. So it would be helpful. Think they could figure out a way of, where they could hear it instead. So,
Fascinating.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Andrew, I had a question. I apologize. I jumped on the meeting a little late, running from one meeting to another. Hey, Trey and Dustin. So quick question. So you may have said this already, but so you can reuse the same link every time? Like if you have it on a QR code, scan this and it can be the same every time, right? I just wanted to confirm that.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, if you so if the originating computer that's receiving that English language, whether that's your main AV computer, or you have a separate device that's going to do that. If you've bookmarked a certain room, so you call it Sunday morning as a Sunday morning 6, 7, 8 as a room, and you bookmark that, and then you copy that overlay link, that will be the same every time. The overlay link will always be connected to that originating room that you're broadcasting from.
Great. Awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was great stuff. I didn't know about that, and I was messaging Dustin a couple questions that like things we could possibly utilize this for. So I really appreciate that. That was fantastic. Now we spent some time with real-time translation. I'm going to move into talking just a little bit about how we use AI tools to translate written materials. At the conference level, we use several tools to translate written materials, including ChatGPT. Claude.ai is one that I personally use quite a bit. Google Translate. These help us translate communication content like social media posts, our newsletter content, even video scripts. Some other resources you may know of or use are Copilot, which is Microsoft's built-in system, Gemini, which is Google's built-in system. And a lot of people don't realize, the people who are kind of weary, justifiably, of AI, don't know if they've been using Grammarly. They've been using AI for years without even realizing it. Google Maps, all the traffic information, that's AI. So these are just a few resources. I used Grammarly for years and years until ChatGPT came around. I started using that. And here in the last year, I've started using Claude as my primary resource, both at the conference level and personally as well. These resources can be a really powerful tool to help us move faster, reduce workload, expand accessibility. The key thing is to make sure if we use it responsibly. Responsible AI use is a really important thing. And I really want to be very clear right off the beginning. AI is not a replacement for human translation. This is a tool to help us get to where we're going, but it's not going to give us our final result. Why AI assisted translation matters. Some churches are really fortunate to have a full-time translator or someone who on their staff who is bilingual and can translate a language that's pertinent to their ministry. But as we all know, many of our churches, including here on the comms team here at the conference, we don't have bilingual staff. We don't necessarily have translation budgets or time to translate every single item we put out manually. So the most common result of that problem is simply nothing gets translated. AI, when it's used responsibly, can help us bridge that gap. It allows us to say we may not be perfect, but we can be more inclusive than we were yesterday. And in ministry, that really matters. Language access is all about hospitality, dignity, and belonging. It's about making sure everyone feels as included as possible. So let's talk about how we get there, a responsible workflow that allows us to get there. The first step is going to be starting with a clear, simple English message or your native language, whatever that is, starting with it clear, simple, getting it down to exactly how you wanted to say it. Before you ever translate, just make sure you clean up your original text. Key thing as you're geared towards translation, avoid idioms like hit the ground running, things that may not literally and figuratively translate into your targeted language. Avoid insider church language when possible, and try to keep sentences as clear and concise as possible. That's a good communication rule, but also for translation. The clearer your English is, the better your translation will end up being, no matter what tool you're using to get there. So once you've got your clear, concise message in your native language, the second step is use AI to generate a draft. You heard me mention earlier at the conference, we use ChatGPT, Claude, and Google Translate. Each of these has its strengths. In my personal experience, Google Translate tends to be the fastest and the simplest, but ChatGPT and Claude are much better at capturing the tone and the context of what you're trying to convey. There's been many times where I've used both Google Translate and Claude to compare the translations and just to see where there are discrepancies so I can learn a little bit better. But any of those are valuable resources. When we use AI, we don't just, at the conference, we don't just say, translate this. I don't go to Claude and say, put this in Spanish. I make sure to give it guidance. I won't just say, translate this sentence into Spanish. I'll say, translate this into Spanish for a church audience. Use warm, invitational language. Keep it clear and accessible. The more direction you give to AI, just like with humans, the more direction you give to AI, the more likely you're going to get the intended result that you want back. I personally, as you heard me say, use Claude more often, just recently switched. And I've trained a Claude conversation that I have to for Spanish translation to know that I always want the translation to use vernacular that's common amongst specifically Spanish speakers in the United States. There are deviations, as we know, between different Latin American countries as well as Hispanic countries all around the world. So most of the time, our intended audience is Spanish speakers in the U.S. I have it trained to keep that in mind. I have it trained to keep a warm but professional tone because it's on behalf of the Horizon Texas Conference. And those small instructions that initially took me maybe 5 minutes to set up make a huge difference in the long run. Once you train that chat to know exactly what you're going for, it can replicate that over and over. So once we've got our AI generated first draft, our next step is we want to review it ourselves for tone and clarity. You'll be surprised when AI generates a translation. You can do a quick check for those things internally. Even if you're not fluent, you can often catch simple things like formatting issues, names, dates, obvious inconsistencies. If I'm working on a translation for a graphic, I can at the very least check that the visual formatting and fitting of the translation is going to work in the long run for whatever graphic I'm working towards. So once we've done our own sort of internal audit of that translation, the next step is genuinely the most critical step in any sort of translation. You have to have a native speaker review it if you want to be authentic in it. It's by far and away the most important part of the process. AI can get you 75, 80, 90% of the way there, but a native speaker is what's going to get you the rest of the way. And most importantly, ensure that there's trust and legitimacy in the translation itself. At the Horizon Texas Conference, we always have a native speaker check to proofread it, to adjust the tone, to catch any cultural nuances, which is a really important thing to remember. And then really most importantly, ensure it sounds like something a real person would say. I am not I am not fluent in Spanish. I'm not even base level, but I do remember learning the difference in usted and things like that. Those little nuances of the formality versus the informal that AI may not necessarily pick up on, that a native speaker will always pick up on. Translation isn't just about words. It's about capturing the meaning, the cultural, and the connection of the text as well. We know when we read English, we know there are times where I can look at something and say, yeah, AI translated that. It's the same thing when you do, or AI transcripted that, AI created that. It's the same thing when we're doing translation. A native speaker can look at something and say, yeah, that's what AI thinks I would say, but it's not actually what I would say. So really important part of the process to make sure we have a native speaker review everything we're translating. Also, just side note, I'm trying to move really quickly through this because I want to make sure you hear all of Armando's stuff. Andrew's and Armando's content is the really good stuff, and I want to make sure you get that. So if at any point you need me to stop or slow down, just let me know. Once we have the native speaker review our translation, the next step, build a feedback loop. Learn from this. Learn from the times you have a native speaker review things. Over time, your translations will get better. There's 3 people who I go to a lot for translations for conference work, Armando being one of them. But every time I get feedback from one of those 3 people, I try to save that feedback. Look for commonly used phrases that they are adjusting, standardizing terms and ministry names. I have a note on my computer that's just various ministry names, extension ministries, the conference name itself, all of it just saved in Spanish. Once I have that, I don't want to have to ask for it again. And then learn from those corrections that they're making. This helps you move faster, more consistently, and maybe even allows you to remove that final step if it's a short paragraph that you feel comfortable translating because you've worked with people before. I'll admit that that's one thing I need to get better at about myself, just documenting those little nuances that I get back feedback from our native speakers. So let's talk very quickly about the ethical considerations. We want to name just a few guardrails when using AI for translation. It's a popular topic right now. The first is don't assume accuracy. That's anything AI gives you, whether it's helping you proof something, whether it's helping you create something, whether it's helping you translate something. Don't assume AI is correct. It was either last year or 2 years ago. If you use ChatGPT, you'll notice at the bottom, it now says ChatGPT can make mistakes. They had to do that because ChatGPT was frequently making mistakes. It's not nearly as uncommon. ChatGPT is not going to take your job. It is not foolproof. There's even sometimes just very subtle errors. I remember a time when I was having AI translate a text, and for seemingly no reason, it just changed the date. All of the translation was correct. It just changed the date to be the wrong date. And that's one of those things that I proved myself, realized it was wrong, sent it to the translator, found out everything else was right. ChatGPT just changed the date for seemingly no reason. So never, ever assume that what it's putting out to you is accurate. Always avoid sensitive or high stakes content without human translation. Try to always avoid not having a human translator. But if there is an instance, a situation where you have to, don't ever let it be something that's sensitive or high stakes. Things like theology, legal language, pastoral care, they really need that extra attention and that extra level of detail. Respect your intended audience. Poor translation can feel dismissive or impersonal and may do a great harm than if you had not intended translation to begin with. We are in an age where we're hyper aware of AI and its implications. And this is one thing where even if you're intending to be inclusive through a translation, there's an opportunity for you to unintentionally alienate the audience that you may not have otherwise. So just be really careful that you're respecting your intended audience. And then make sure you're transparent internally. Let your team know when AI is part of the process, one, so they can be informed, and even more so they can be helpful. Every time I send Armando or the other people, the other two people I was mentioning, I make sure to let them know, hey, this was an AI translation. This is not my attempt. I didn't have anyone else. I need you to know that's AI. So feel free to say all of the things that are wrong with it. I want to make sure I'm really transparent with them. Ultimately, everything we do in ministry is about stewardship and trust. And our goal should always be to use these tools to serve people, not just cut corners at their expense. Good. I was thinking about doing a practical example. I don't want to do that. If you have any questions at the end, maybe there will be some time, but I want to make sure we get to Armando. But the biggest thing, if you take anything away from my portion, I'm a big proponent of champion of AI used responsibly, but make sure in anything you do AI assisted translation is not about replacing people. It's about equipping our ministries to be more accessible and welcoming. And that's a statement that could be applied to everything we do with AI. AI is not out for your job. AI is not going to take your job as long as you do it well. But don't let it. Dustin and I were just talking recently. AI is not going to take your job, but there are some people who are probably going to lose their jobs because of AI. Not because AI is taking it, because they're allowing AI to do their job too much. So don't let it replace you. Don't let it replace people. Let it equip you to do your ministry better and more accessibly than ever before. We really are living in an age where it's some pretty low-hanging fruit how we can reach people with the gospel in new, creative, and incredible ways. And AI helps a lot with that. Great. So let's quick Q&A. If you have any questions for me about any of these sorts of things, ChatGPT, AI, translation, just let me know.
You talked about using AI a lot in the conference office. Do you all have I just went blank on what I was about to ask, like guidelines, ethical use guidelines, or some sort of document that you can share with us?
We don't have a document. We probably should put something together. Pam, Dustin, and I talk about it quite a bit, and we have an internal spoken understanding of what we do. First of all, we never let AI create something for us outright. We write things and we use it for a lot of proofing. We use it to challenge us and stretch us. And actually, if you haven't heard the Pod Strangely Warmed, we have a conference podcast that Dustin runs and Daniel Hawkins hosts. They did an AI ethical episode, I think December of 24, where they talked about, we had a couple pastors on who were talking about how you should never let it write your sermon for you, but let it stretch you theologically. Give it your sermon and say, I'm a Wesleyan-based United Methodist pastor. Challenge me on some of these points. So that's just a one thought. We don't have a one sheet. We probably should. There are some out there that we could probably locate and even create one ourselves. We just sort of talk about it amongst ourselves internally as a team and what our expectations are of the ethical considerations. Yeah.
Okay, great. And second question, can we also use you, Armando, to check? I'm just kidding, Armando. You're good. You're good.
Yes, Armando has and Jessica. Oh gosh, I just blanked her last name. Armando.
Vargas.
Jessica Vargas and Armando are two of our conference staff that I send them at least once a week something saying, please help me. And then I'm fortunate enough that my father-in-law is fluent in Spanish. And so when they're not around or I've sent them too much stuff and don't want to bother them, I'll send it to Jim and say, please let me know if this is correct. And Dustin has uploaded, I'm guessing, that Pod Strangely Warmed episode into the chat, which is a really good resource for those of you who are pastors on the call. We had the director of communications from FUMC Dallas and the senior pastor from FUMC Hurst were both on that episode talking about a lot of the ethical implications of AI, especially through a ministry and preaching standpoint. If there are any other questions, like I said, we'll have some time at the end. I want to be respectful of y'all's time and make sure we hear from Armando as well. So,
all right. Hey, all of this sounds really great. Thank you, Andrew and Trey, for all the information you're giving. I think it's very helpful. I'm going to share with you on my screen in a minute about how in the Center of Multiplication, what we've been doing. One of the biggest things is that we want to make sure that we meet people where they're at. And so one of those things is the language. And sometimes that can be a barrier. And so we're always trying to be creative in everything that we do. So it's I titled it Conversation with Translation, and our goal to meet people where they are at. That's one of our goals there. One of the tools that we use is Zoom. And we use Teams also, but Zoom helps us with these webinars that we've been doing. And so I'm just going to kind of go through some of the things that we've done and how we got to where we're at. Now, I don't have any pictures for you, so you're just going to have to try to imagine when you get into Zoom and what you do from there. And I'm going to try to explain that to y'all. So, here it is right here. So it's equipped to reach and master classes that we've used this with. At the end of all the master classes that we did, we ended up having a webinar, something that was online. And so we used it there where we had a live translator, interpreter going at the same time. And equipped to reach, we did the same thing too. So the participants have the opportunity to hear it in another language. And specifically, we've been working mainly with Spanish. But I think one of the things that I'm starting to see is that we need also for other languages like Korean, the Korean language, that right there, what they're speaking is being able to help them to meet people where they're at. And we're starting to see what we can do with that. The presenter still can speak their language when you go into Zoom. So when you go into Zoom, I'm going to get into that in a minute. When you go into Zoom, you schedule that meeting and then you have options in there. And so the language chosen will be translated while the presenter is speaking. So like, for example, when we did the Equipped to Reach, Stacy was presenting in English. But because the way we set it up in Zoom, you have the opportunity to select that there's going to be a translation or interpreter, and you want to interpret from English to Spanish, let's say, for example. And then when people log in, they can actually choose where to go, if they want to go to just the English or they go to Spanish. But the only person they're going to see is really Stacy. They're going to see her talking, but they're going to be hearing either myself or Jessica translating or someone who's translating. So they're hearing that only from there. They're not seeing us. As a matter of fact, the host can see me or Jessica. We're translating, but none of the people that are in the Zoom can actually see it or in the webinar. They're just hearing what we're translating as she goes. The challenge there is this. If Stacy did, we have a script, but sometimes she'll change it. She's really good about, moving it here and saying this, and it wasn't on the script. So we have to then just be able to be ready to move fast whenever she says a joke or something else that wasn't on the script and try to translate that. So, and sometimes it doesn't always translate really well. So, okay. So it depends, so where it says how, as host, you go to the schedule meeting on Zoom, where you go to the part where you're going to schedule. You're the host, you're going to schedule a meeting. And then below options, you're going to go to another area where you will see interpretation. And there is interpretation. You're going to click on that. And there you will see enable language interpretation. And so when you see that link or that part there in the Zoom, enable language interpretation, this is where you're going to be able to put down the person who's going to be interpreting. And so, for example, they would put my name down or Jessica's name. And so we're going to be the interpreter. So this is where you will enter your email address of the interpreter, and then it goes from there. And then, like I said, when people are actually registering or coming into the actual Zoom meeting, they'll have a choice if they want to go to hear it in Spanish or in another language, while the actual person you're seeing is only speaking in English. But it blocks out that English. Okay. Are there any questions there right now with that?
So this is a live translator that we secure.
Yes, it would be a live person actually talking and translating and interpreting. And I'll tell you right now, my experience, because I've been to Costa Rica so many times with the church, and we would take youth groups and go back, and so just learning, you have to code switch back and forth. And I was glad that Trey brought this up because yes, there are different kinds of Spanish. Lots of different kinds of Spanish. And so you have to be very careful who's listening. And so, again, sometimes some of the people may not understand that kind of Spanish because I had a pastor who spoke really Castilian Spanish. Man, that was like the kind they teach in school. But I grew up, in Texas, raised and born in Texas, and my Spanish is more Tex-Mex, and so some of the words that he would say in his sermon, I didn't understand what that was. So basically, I had the chance to talk to him later on about that. But Spanish is different. When I went to Costa Rica, that was a different kind. Automatically, right away, people will recognize by your accent, what kind of Spanish or where you're from. Like automatically, when I went to Costa Rica, they already knew I had a background that I grew up Mexican American. So anyway, so the other thing that we did streaming. Okay, so this one. Streaming, we did the streaming in several locations, and it was mainly in Vision Day. On Vision Day that we had for the Center of Multiplication, I was in Amarillo, and a big group was in Grand Prairie at FUMC. So what was going on there, Jessica was translating in Spanish live right there. Now she's in person. So that's another way that we do it as well. That's one way that we do. Either I'll be over there and I'll translate over there, and when in Amarillo when I was there for any of the Spanish speakers. And so that's another thing that we do too. It's a live translation, but we do it on streaming from different places. So, so this is where I'm going to end it real quick here, but from my experience in Amarillo, and also through some of the Zooms and Teams meetings that we've been having, there's these glasses called smart eyeglasses that translate the language with the help of Google or other resources. You wear the glasses and you actually on your phone, you actually will pick what you want, the language you want, and then it's spoken to the person who's wearing the glasses. I'm sure it's kind of plugged into their ears as well. And I want to say this, that it's interesting because I spoke with some of the people that were using those. They said the problem is that unless they've changed this, the problem is that you say, I want to hear it in Spanish, but then someone starts talking in Spanish, it's not going to translate. Sometimes it shuts down or it doesn't know what to do. So they were telling me that that's kind of the flaw right there, the downfall with that, but it'll just stop. And sometimes those that stop, that's good because they're hearing it in Spanish because that's what they signed up for. And then I put AI, and Trey talked about it, but I'm going to tell you something that I'm starting to find out that, hey, AI is a good resource, but like it doesn't replace the human being. So it's important to get whatever resources as a as a past teacher, from the past. One of the things I taught my students was critical thinking, and it was also about knowing your resources, because nobody really knows all the answers, but we can go and search it. So AI, I think, has been one of those things that kind of stepped up and is going to help us in language or in meaning or in theology to kind of search it, but don't go full into it. Just understand that that's just the resource. You got to do your own research as it is. So that's all I have. So I don't know if there are any questions.
I just wonder how long it'll be before Zoom will automatically translate live using AI.
Yeah. That's a good question. There are just so many things I think, that are starting to happen that I'm excited about it, because it's just an interesting thing how things are changing. There's cars that are driving by themselves, and I wonder, in the car, you get in the car, what if you speak a different language and you're here in the United States? And will it still do what you say? I mean, I think the car needs to know exactly what you're saying. You go, Me lleva para la tienda, por favor. And so the car may not understand that. And so we're stuck. Okay. So,
Armando,
Yeah, we're
I
not
believe
far away from that, and the technology exists, like you heard Armando talk about with the smart glasses. Also, for those of you who aren't aware, if you have a newer pair of AirPods, that also has a feature of translation as well. So the technology's out there for us to communicate better than ever before. And Tom shared there's an ASL Bible translation at deafmissions.com. He's got the link there. That's we've talked a lot about translating to Spanish, but um, as all of you may know, at the conference level, we make a concerted effort to make sure we're translating things into American Sign Language as well, because that is something we definitely need to be aware of. Andrew says, I'm pretty sure YouTube will live translate. Facebook doesn't, but we stream to both at once, and I think YouTube can be set to Spanish live. Great. Real quick before you leave, I want to make sure you all know about our next Lunch and Learn in April. We'll have Shift Worship with us. Shift Worship, if you don't know, is a media graphics company specializing specifically in church media and graphics. If you've heard of Igniter, or they're a big company that does that, Church Motion Graphics. Shift Worship is another one of those. They've hosted the SALT conference. They're one of the presenting sponsors of SALT conference, which is a big thing. They're going to join us next month to talk a little bit about how they can provide services that might help you up your graphics game, including social media, website, worship graphics, all sorts of things. But we'll get together on Thursday, April 16th at noon. Always the third Thursday on these Lunch and Learns, but Shift Worship will be with us next month, and we're excited about having them. Thanks very much, Andrew and Armando, for joining us today. Thanks to Dustin for keeping us going, and thank you all for being here with us. This is being recorded. We always record these Lunch and Learns, and we put them on our YouTube channel so that they're easy to reference afterwards. And you have all of our names. If you have any questions you want to email, or you want to get a hold of Andrew to get his one-page doc that he's got there. And then I'm glad Amanda said that, because I think one of our initiatives now is going to be in the next couple of weeks putting together an ethical considerations of AI one sheet. I've already got the work done for this presentation, so now I just got to put it into a one sheet, but we'll make sure to get that out for those of you who like that as well. Otherwise, thanks. If you didn't eat lunch while you were joining us, go grab lunch, and we hope to see you in April. Thanks very much, everyone.